This is video number 3 in my series about how to use Gestalt psychology in your slide design. In the last video, we talked about how to use simplicity to take this slide and make it simple so it looked like this. But notice a problem with this slide? If your entire presentation looked like this, slide after slide after slide, it'd be really boring. It's boring and it's too plain, so we need to add some more design to make it more interesting. This slide is in need of some serious help. But where do we start? Yeah, I got nothing. Let's ask my research assistant, Sage, and see what he thinks. Sage, what do you think? Sage is totally right. All this text, it basically looks all the same, which reminds me of the Gestalt principle of similarity. And now that I'm thinking of it, the slide feels a little crammed, which makes me think of the proximity principle too. Let me explain what those are and then show you how to use those principles to make this slide better. The principle of proximity states that elements that are close together are seen as one unit. Elements that aren't close together are seen as separate. Kind of like when you're with that really weird and awkward friend, and then you see someone really cool, so you pretend like you aren't with that friend by physically distancing yourself. That's not very nice, you know. The principle of similarity states that elements that share visual characteristics like shape, size, and color will look like they belong in one unit. Kind of like how in every zombie movie, people don't get eaten by the horde when they cover themselves up in zombie slime. They make themselves similar. Still not sure what I mean? Let me give you some more concrete examples. Let's go over to my best friend PowerPoint so I can show you. I don't know her. Let's first talk about proximity, which again basically means stuff that is close together will look like it belongs together. For example, what do you see here? Probably a bunch of random shapes on the slide, right? You probably aren't really sure what you're looking at, and if I asked you to count the number of shapes, you'd probably be annoyed with me. So tell me what you see now. You might still see a bunch of shapes, but I'm willing to bet that you also see a square that happens to be made up of shapes. All I did was bring the shapes together. I made them close to each other. And remember from the first video, our brain likes to see the outline before the individual parts. So your brain right now is most likely trying to see the square instead of the 16 individual shapes. And if I add some more space in between here, now you probably see 4 columns of shapes because the shapes within each column are now closer to each other than the shapes in the other columns. So the key here is that if you want to make things on your slide part of the same group, then make them close to each other. On the flip side, if you want to tell your audience that elements aren't in the same group, then add some space in between them. So that's proximity. Now let's talk about similarity. Again, this is basically stuff that looks the same, has the same design features, will look as though it's all part of the same group. Let's go back to this slide here. Thanks to proximity, we're more likely to see a square than 16 individual shapes, right? But let's be real, our brain has to do some extra work to get that because of all the different colors. It is distracting. But if I made everything the same color, well, now all of a sudden it becomes a little easier to see it as a square, doesn't it? So we can use similar colors to make the audience perceive that these are all part of the same group. We can also use shapes to do this. So if we take all these here and make them the exact same shape, now it's even easier to see this as one cohesive group and as a square of circles. Now we can use both similarity and proximity together to make people see what we want. Let's say I want you to see 4 columns instead of a square. All I have to do is add some white space in between. Now you see 4 columns. And we can keep playing with this. Let's say I want you to see 4 small groups. Well, all I need to do is use similarity and proximity to do that. And again, we can bring back color to add more depth to this. Right now you see 1 group, but let's say I want you to see 4 groups without changing the proximity. I can use color to do that. Now you probably see 4 rows, or 2 rows of blue circles and 2 rows of gray circles. So just adding some color turned this square into rows without adjusting the proximity at all. So I can use color and shape to group things. I can also use size. By adjusting the size, you now see 3 rows of small circles and 1 row of big circles. And again, using multiple strategies all at once makes it even easier to tell what belongs together. So here we use shape to distinguish the 4 rows, so you now see 4 circles, 4 hearts, 4 Harry Potter scars, and 4 stars. But what do you see when I add some color? Now we're back to 4 columns because the color is more meaningful to us than the shape. And if we add in another layer by using proximity, then it's even more obvious that it's 4 columns. Or we can go back to the original and use everything together to create 4 separate rows. We can use shape, color, and proximity to separate each row. Using all of them together means it's really easy to see that we have 4 separate rows. So to show your audience that objects belong together, keep them close and use the same color, shape, size, etc. And to let them know things aren't in the same group, keep them apart and use different colors, shapes, size, and etc. So now let's talk about what actually belongs together and what should be distinct in your slides. The heading text is 1 group, and it should be different or distinct than the body text. They are not part of the same group. So there, you have 2 groups already, heading and body text. And then within the body text group, each separate point needs to be a little different too, so it doesn't all run together and look like a wall of text. Congratulations! You now know the basics of similarity and proximity. No popcorn, Cobb! Now it's time to apply this information on our slide. This is where we left off in the last video. Can you spot the problems with similarity and proximity here? Let's start with similarity. So that's our heading and body. And like we just talked about, these should be distinct. They should be different so that people know exactly which part is the heading and which part is the body. And technically, they tried to do that. There is a different color used for the heading and the body, and the heading is a bigger font size than the body. But we can totally do better than that. For starters, the heading is only a size 32, and that body text is a size 18. Both of those are way too small. Your text should always be at least a size 30 if you want people to actually see it. And they look really close in size because, well, they are close in size. So I'm going to make the heading and body text bigger and make the difference between the 2 bigger. But now I have a problem with proximity. There's no space between that heading and the body text. So I need to scoot that down a bit. Okay, but we're still struggling with similarity. The heading and the body look too similar because it's the same typeface for both. So I'm going to make the heading Arial Black and the body text Century Gothic. And now I can actually make that a little smaller because it's a bigger typeface. Now, not only can we actually read the text, but it's pretty obvious which one is the heading and which one is the body. So I guess we could stop there, but remember how I said each separate point within the body text should be separate from each other? Well, right now that's not the case. In fact, it's all the same text and so close together that it looks like one big square or wall of text. So we need to add a little more space in between each of these rows. Okay, now that looks better. The heading looks clearly different from the body text because they look like distinct groups. And all the body text looks separate from each other, so it's clear there are 4 separate points. We've come a long way, don't you think? So far, we've simplified the slide by reducing the text, getting rid of clutter, and making the information route simple. And we've used similarity and proximity to group all that text on the slide. Hopefully, you're already seeing the benefits of using visual perception research to design your slides. If you liked today's video, please share and subscribe and consider signing up for my free e-course, Countdown to Stellar Slides. It teaches you a whole bunch of strategies to make your slides better. If you loved this video, please consider donating a cup of coffee to my page. Your donations help me create these videos for free and to take the extra time to make all the fun illustrations. Or, hey, consider working with me for your presentation training, mentoring, or custom design services. Maybe you'd like a video series about Gestalt psychology for your class. That would be cool. I'd love to work with you on that. Or something else entirely. Everything I do is tailored to the unique needs of women academics, scientists, researchers, or evaluators who are trying to make the world a better place, because that's my goal too. All right, see you in the next video. Bye!